had been through, what any of his brothers and sisters had been through. He could just hear that conversation. How many men did you say you killed? How did you say you killed them? How do you feel about that? How did they fucking think he felt about that? It would be prison or a padded cell, and he'd been locked up most of his life and wasn't ever going there again. Not ever. Ice swept off the silly ball cap he was wearing, the one covering his distinctive hair. He wasn't just blonde. His hair blazed in the sun. Platinum, gold, silver. It was all there. He wore it longish, but not as long as some of the brothers. He wiped at the sweat again and replaced the ball cap. As he came up to the light, he dipped into the brightly colored open tote a woman dangled so invitingly on her arm, lifted a small package and dropped it on the sidewalk just in front of him. "Ma'am," he bent down, "you dropped something." The older woman turned and her eyes went wide. "Oh, no, thank you. I bought that for my granddaughter." He took his time rising with it, angling away from the light and keeping most of the crowd between him and his prey. He flashed a charming smile at her. "How old is your granddaughter, if you don't mind me asking? Because you sure as hell don't look old enough to be a grandmother." He meant it, too. He didn't have to pour bullshit sincerity into his tone. She beamed at him. "That's such a sweet thing to say. I'm definitely old enough. She's 8. She took the little package and dropped it into her tote, pulling her bag more securely to her. "I really like your tattoo. It's unusual." He had a wealth of tattoos on his arms, chest, and back, but she was referring to the 3 teardrops dripping down his face from the corner of his left eye. Those tears reminded him, every time he looked into a mirror, that he wasn't human anymore. Everything had been taken from him, leaving a shell, an empty shell. The tightness in his chest made it difficult to breathe again. He touched one of the tears as if just remembering he had them. Had them for years. You know the kind of thing you do when you're a kid. She smiled at him again. "You still look like a kid to me." Now he'd run out of things to say. She was nice. He didn't live in a nice world. He didn't know how to make conversation with nice people. He could beat the holy hell out of someone for her. He could kill someone for her if she asked him to. Shit, he might do both. But polite conversation was beyond him. Of course, there was always the alternative. He could pull out his gun and shoot the bastards right there in front of everyone. The cops would come and there would be a hell of a shootout, but in the end, he might have some peace. Might. There was probably a special place in hell for a man like him. He didn't have the luxury of offing himself via cop, because if he killed the 2 he'd been following for 4 fucking days in the hottest place in the world, then he would be condemning some little boy to a lifetime of hell. He knew what that was like. Shit. The woman was talking to him, but he couldn't hear a thing she said. The crowd moved, and he risked a glance over his shoulder. The 2 assholes were already in the street. He turned back to the street and moved with the woman, angling his head down and toward her, as if fully engaged in everything she had to say. He had a lot he could tell her, specifically that he was so fucked up that if he was in a room full of hot babes stripping for him, he couldn't get it up unless he commanded it. That was getting damn tiresome. What was the use in having chicks blow him when he had to force his body to cooperate? Yeah, that would make a great conversation. He could ask her advice. Maybe he should ask Blythe and shock the holy hell out of her. Not that much shocked her. She'd taken Czar back and taken the entire club in as if she were a mother hen. He had to admit he actually felt affection and admiration for her when he thought he was long past real emotion. Blythe and her troubled children. He could relate to them. Unfortunately for them. He walked with the older woman for another block, listening to her chatter on about her adorable granddaughter. When she paused, and he had no choice but to fill the silence with words, he talked about his darling nieces and nephews. He supposed it wasn't a lie. They didn't have to be related by birth. All members of Torpedo Ink were his brethren. That meant their children were part of his life, right? That was how it worked in his world, whether it did or not in the normal world. Movement caught his eye as he turned the corner with a little wave at the woman who went straight. A white dress with flowers.